Uṭṭhānavato, satimant, sucikammassa, nisammakārino, Saññatassa, dhammajīvino, appamattassa, yasobhivaḍḍhati. Now, instead of just translating this all together, we will go through it, and maybe I'll even do one thing differently, and I'll leave up here a translation, the translation that we come up with. So really, the easiest way to approach this is to go all the way here to the end. And what we have here, yasobhivaḍḍhati, is actually a running together of two words. This is really yasobhivaḍḍhati. Either because of the meter, metrikausa. Sometimes you'll see that if you read older books, just meaning on account of the meter, because of the meter. The short was dropped out, or just because these are pronounced together. And as you've probably noticed, quite often these us do drop out when they're combined with other words. So that's the main thing. We just have to understand that this is yaso and abhivaḍḍhati. And by itself, this is a complete thought. This could be its own sentence. And we'll look at yaso here. This is neuter nominative singular, or neuter first case. And it means glory, fame, repute, like a good report. Yaso. And then this verb, remember, it is abhivaḍḍhati. It means to increase or grow. Vaḍṭhati by itself really means to grow, to increase, and this abhi means even more, maybe beyond. So to outgrow or to grow over, beyond. These all come from the Pali English dictionary here. So it's kind of a literal rendering of those two components. Just to, spreads far and wide. A good report spreads far and wide. Now, this is another reason, not that I gave one before, but a good reason to learn about these prefixes that come up. And so if you're starting to look for this word and you have some problems, one thing is you might come up with yaso and then could easily get stuck on bhivaḍṭhati. But if you think, it might be abhi, or at least look up something like vaḍṭhati and then start to put it together in that way. There's also, I forget exactly what it is, and I'll try to put a link in the description, but there is a site that parses the Pali compounds, and it just loads the Tipitaka, and you click on a word, and it'll give you all the possible combinations. So it doesn't claim to be correct. It just gives you a place to start, so you could go through and see these different combinations, and that can help too. Okay, now here's the thing about the rest of the verse. What about the rest of this verse? Well, every other word is in the genitive singular. It's really masculine genitive singular. In form, we don't know that, so I wrote them all down as dative/genitive. There's only one instance, one case, where the dative is different, and that's in the but we don't see that case here. These are all the exact same. So, and what we'll do, I'll just show you how this works with this word right here, since it's right next to yaso. We have this word appamattassa. Now, this whole chapter has been on appamatto, or, being vigilant. So this is an adjective. It's not the noun. This is an adjective, meaning one who is vigilant, and all that goes along with that: diligent, careful, heedful, not just going through life doing your own thing mindlessly. This is someone who is, again, not that. Diligent, careful, heedful, just to repeat that from the Pali English Dictionary. So really what we're seeing here is yaso, or let's say it together, appamattassa yaso. So the report, or the good report, or the fame of the person who is diligent, of the careful person, the heedful person, spreads far and wide. That's what's going on here. And that is true of every other word here. So now we've taken care of appamattassa. By the way, I've included these, or I've added these little footnotes. The way the tipitaka.org addresses or shows variant readings as they put them in brackets in the, right after the word. But I think in this case it diminishes readability, so I just put them down here, appamattassa. So this one is a little different, and they just have a question mark there. I don't know much about that, but I leave these here for you, dear listener, if you want to ponder if this would have any deep significance for you. This, again, this was the variant reading, and they put it in blue. So I'm just going with this reading here. So the fame of, or the good report of, the diligent person, and then again, dhammajīvino. Now, if you've only studied, say, the family of nouns, both masculine and neuter, this won't look very familiar. So this actual ending in the singular, let's see, where did I put it here? Right here is jīvin. So, and you really, and that is a form you would have to look up. You would see jīvi, actually. But this in asserts itself in the other cases. So jīvino is, again, the masculine genitive singular here. And that just means one who leads a life, leading a life of dhamma, of dharma, a dharmic lifed person. That actually, that's not a good way to say that, but you get the sense of like a person who leads a life in accordance with the dharma. And of course, we could spell out exactly what that means. For us, we probably have a pretty good understanding of dharma, but of course, if we were going to translate this, it's a good question to ask, does everyone who's reading, or, even if it's informally, if we're talking about this, does everyone present really understand the word dharma and all of its implications? So, dharma has to do with truth and what's right and just. And so it's very, obviously it has a depth to it. And a single word won't address that. But also, if someone isn't aware of the word, like what dharma would mean at all, one word might be better. It might point someone at least in the right direction. So someone who lives a life of truth, someone who lives a life of justice, but certainly someone who lives a life of dharma or leads a dharmic life. That would probably be a better way to say that. So the fame of someone who is Saññatassa. Now this one, to me, if you look this one up in the Pali English Dictionary, I know there are other more modern dictionaries, but if you look this up in the Pali English Dictionary, you won't find it under this. Like, this isn't the entry you'll get. You would expect saññata. And what you will see is saññata, which means skilled. But that isn't actually what we see here. I mean, it's possible sometimes that on account of the meter, the length of this vowel could be changed. But I consulted some other translations, and they all went with this. They weren't going with the word skilled. They were going with restrained and self-controlled. And so I was thinking like, well, I think that I'm not on the right track with that. And if you just search this through the entries, what you find is that this is a form, but the Pali English Dictionary actually lists it under saññata. And as a matter of fact, they do it. I don't even know how to type that in. I'm sure there's a way, but they have that sort of modified N. That's how they list this sound. But that's what you actually would have to look up. And then in parentheses, they say also this word. And then that gives us this meaning of restrained and self-controlled. It also comes up, though, as asaññata, this form, not this one, I think, which would be unrestrained, without self-control. So the report, the good report, or the fame, the glory of one who is restrained and self-controlled. We'll keep working backwards. I should say, by the way, this is our standard ending. So there's one more like that. The others, as we'll see right here, they are from different classes of nouns. So this kārino, this is another one where it would actually end in kind of an or not an but an n, just an n, and this is the genitive singular form. This goes back to the verb karoti, or to the same root as karoti. So kārino is one who does, or one who acts, maybe, and we'll say doing, and then nisamma is considerately, carefully. So you could say one who acts considerately. Again, these are all these are all not unrelated to this word right here, this appamattassa, being vigilant. This is really like kind of, I would say, spelling out what appamattassa is. Now here's another word, sucikammassa. This kamma, karma, is also related to the word karoti, to do. And in this case, it means an act. So of an act, of a pure act. But it really means of a person who is of pure act, of one who acts purely, of one whose actions maybe are pure. So that's this suci. And this comes up in there's another Dhammapada verse I have ready for more of an intro to Pali video. So the fame of the person who acts purely. Satimant. This is let's see, where did I put it here? We're working back. Satimant. Now, this is an ending that comes up a lot. When you see it in the nominative singular, it would be like satimā. It would be like a long A. It would look just like that. But it's listed kind of under this this form here. Sati, we probably all know as mindful. This is one like bearing mindfulness, being mindful. So mindful, thoughtful, contemplative are these words are from the Pali English Dictionary entry. Again, so we talked about the nominative singular there, but then this genitive singular, this is its form here. And there's a variant reading of satimāto. So this one lacks the long I. The meaning isn't going to change, and it's found in these three. This is, I think this is the Sri Lanka, the Sinhalese. I think this is the Thai, and that's the Khmer. That won't change the meaning, but you see how it's probably just the case of the meter that's caused that to change. Okay, and then with our last one, which is actually the very first one that's encountered, Uṭṭhānavato. And this is the same this is a vant ending, which is very similar in form to the mant ending. So this is like having the quality of this uṭṭha, so someone who is strenuous or active. The report of one who is active or strenuous, which was sort of something that was addressed in or talked about in verse 23. The report of that person spreads far and wide. So, dear listener, I hope that my approach here, and I failed to put up an actual written translation, but we could say the report, the fame, the glory of one who is strenuous, mindful, of pure action, of one who acts, of the one who acts considerately, of one who is, we'll say restrained, but also meaning self-controlled, of one whose life is dharmic, but maybe a better way to say that would be of one who is restrained, who leads a just life, and of one who is diligent. And you can see why when you put all these in, and of one who is diligent, the report spreads far and wide. Now, this is clearly not a good translation. You would probably want to just repeat this here. The report, glory, the good report, the fame of one who is strenuous, etc., spreads far and wide. When you say it, if you only have one intervening word, it makes sense. But to go all this way, we would probably want to remind people what it is, what it is that's spreading, and of one who is diligent, the good report spreads far and wide. Something like that. Notice that's not an issue in Pali because they put all these genitives in front. By the way, this is a good example of the genitive being a case of possession, I think. More or less possession. It could be like the source or something, but if you have some deeper insight there, please do share, dear listener.